Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about reducing injuries, okay, particularly in your shoulders and your elbows during sword and buckler fighting. Okay, I did do a prior video on this, avoiding tendonitis. If you guys haven't seen that, you should go check it out. In that video, I was focusing more on fighting with larger shields, and I was also focusing. I also did spend a good deal of time talking about fighting with a type X sword, which is a little bit longer, a little bit more, balanced, weight balanced towards the blade. In this video, I'm going to focus on sword and buckler fighting, and with sword and buckler fighting, usually we will use a lighter sword. The significance of this is because the sword is lighter, and also because we have a smaller defense. Usually, we'll lead with our sword leg, right? And as we're leading with our sword leg, our the main source of our power, right? Our power generator is mostly going to be from the shoulders. Okay, the hip does assist, okay, but that's more of, it adds to the power. Okay, so your main power generator is your shoulder when you're fighting in the way I just showed you. And the benefit of that is that it's faster, because as opposed to starting from back here where you're swinging your hips. Okay, now the sword is traveling a longer distance. Yes, you can generate a lot more power more efficiently, but the sword is traveling a longer distance, so it's a little easier for somebody to see and to block. Okay, so and also if we're using a Type X sword, usually we have a larger shield in front of us. The shield gives us more coverage, but it also, to some extent, sometimes it can be used to hide our sword and the angles that it's coming in from. So that's something else that will help us. With a larger shield, I can hold my shield, out here, my sword back here, and I can kind of, deceive you a little bit as to where this sword is going. With a small buckler, I mean, you're gonna see as soon as this comes out, you pretty much know whether it's going left or it's going right, or if it's dropping low. Okay, so for that reason, with the small buckler, we're usually not fighting with the sword back here. We're fighting with the sword up here. Okay, from here we can make a quick thrust. We can fake a thrust and then turn that into a cut. Okay, so we're fighting with the sword forward and with the sword leg forward. Okay, and again, the power is originating from the shoulder. The hips are helping drive through. Okay, but that's adding to the power that originates in the shoulder, as opposed to the other method where you're holding the back up here. Your main power generator is your hips, okay, and then your arm kind of adds to that power. Okay, so there's a big difference. If you look at my hips, okay, here the main power generation is from the hips, okay, whereas here it's mostly shoulders, and then I'm just kind of pushing, putting my hip behind it to add a little bit. So it's depending on the size of the sword and the weight of the sword, it can be subtle or it can be more pronounced. Okay, as the sword gets a little bit bigger, heavier, longer, you end up having to use more hips. As the sword gets lighter and lighter, you can rely more on just on your arm and use your legs to assist you just a little bit. Okay, so because we're using a light sword and we're fighting from up here, what I want to do with my arms is I want to make direct motions. Okay, so if we're boxing, right, we're boxing. My fastest punches are going to be straight. Okay, as opposed to like a big round, something that comes over, whether it's over the top or low. You can see how this is slower, easier to block, and obviously it's using a lot more joint. Okay, if I'm executing some kind of hook, again, that's also going to strain my shoulders a little bit more, as opposed to a punch that just goes straight. Okay, so when we punch, there's three main ways. We can punch with palm down, we can punch palm up, okay, and then we can punch with our palm in the in the vertical position. Okay, so down, up, and then vertical. Okay, I'll call this vertical. Some people might call it neutral. It's called vertical. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the sword in my hand. Okay, palm down, palm up, neutral or vertical. Okay. Okay, and then with my shoulder, I can basically, I can throw palm up. I can also throw palm up low. Okay, same thing here. I can throw palm down high, palm down. I can drop it low, okay? You know, so I can vary my cuts a lot. So with this very simple motion, okay, I can get a lot of mileage out of it. Okay, I can attack left, right, high, and low. Okay, so which is not to say that these are the only movements that we can make, or that we should make, but this type of movement will stress your joints the least. Now you can do some other stuff, but what you want to do is, you want to do the other stuff less. What you will find in most of your fighting is that like 80-90% of your shots are going to be this movement right here, and then occasionally you can throw in something a little bit tricky. I mean, even if I'm going to throw a winker howl, right, which the winker howl, basically the sword comes around, so I can basically attack around that corner. What I'm doing is it's basically I'm throwing the shot palm up, and then at the last second I'm just rolling the sword. So there's really a minimal amount of stress here. It's still attacking in a straight line, and then basically I just let the sword roll over and basically lift my elbow up, and I make that cut. But generally when I fight, I don't use that many winker howls. I mean, because first of all, the winker howl is attempting to go around something. If you use it too often, it loses its effect. People start to expect it. So that's something that you want to use every once in a while. So most of my shots are very simple, straight, either left, right, or vertical cuts. And then what I'll do is I'll add some movement. Okay, so I can do that with a step to the left, step to this side, drop here. So again, using a very simple motion that really doesn't stress my shoulder. Now another thing I can do is I can use a push-pull, where basically I loosen up a little bit on my grip, and then basically I tighten my hand. Basically I'm loosening up these three fingers a little bit, and that allows for a pull-push motion, and that in itself is a nice power generator. Okay, as you can see on the, it's basically it's nicking into that wood. So again, this is something that will where you can generate a little extra power without having to rely on really working your shoulders and your joints. Okay, and then if you do a combination of the two, where basically you use a little hand squeeze, okay, and then just a minimal amount of shoulder, you can generate decent power, and you'll get speed and power, well within what's usually accepted in HEMA or SCA cut and thrust. Okay, you'll easily get that power, so you're minimizing the stress on your joints. You're tiring yourself out a lot less. When I fight cut and thrust, usually I can just keep going. Because it's not tiring, because I'm not using that much muscle. My movements are very minimal. Here to here, and again I'm just, I'm using that push pull in my hand with a little extra, movement from the shoulders, and it's really not tiring at all. So a lot of times, I'll be fighting for like 10-15 minutes straight with this, and I'm not tired. Now, when I do armored combat, we have a much higher hitting calibration, so that tends to tire me out a lot more. But for unarmored combat, this is something that will work really nicely, and it won't strain your shoulders out, it won't strain your elbows out, and it won't tire you out. So something for you guys to think about. If you guys like it, let me know. If it works for you, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it, and if you're not on my channel, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.